and the Indians were attacking here at the Diamond V. Her uncle's ranch lay in the lush Madison Valley, along a river also named for the country's 4th president. Uncle Bram had loved this land as much as she did, but now he was gone, killed by a grizzly attack. It seemed only yesterday he had been telling Dianne of his great plans for the Diamond V. Cole rubbed her hand gently. It was only a dream. Dianne shook her head and gripped his hand. But there are so many threats of Indian attacks and conflict. Zane's regiment is moving to the Little Bighorn River, where they plan to help move the Sioux and Cheyenne back to their reservation. What if something goes wrong? What if the Indians stage an uprising? Nothing will go wrong. Your brother knows how to take care of himself. Not only that, but the Army is well aware of what's going on. They're trained to handle these kinds of matters. But there's always the chance that something could be missed, overlooked. Dianne, it was just a nightmare. Luke stirred, and Dianne glanced to the cradle. I couldn't bear it if anything happened to you or Luke, or any of the others for that matter. But we have to trust that God has it all under control, Cole said with a lopsided grin. Which is a heap better than taking on that load ourselves. Dianne smiled. I know you're right. I just can't help fretting. Cole pulled her into his arms, and together they fell back against the bed. He nuzzled her neck with kisses, leaving her happy and contented with the attention. Luke began to fuss, then to cry. Dianne watched her husband rise up and look to his baby boy. Traitor, he murmured. Then, looking back to Dianne, he shrugged. Another time, I guess. She laughed and pushed him aside as she went to tend their son. At least he's sleeping through the night. Coco's children didn't do that until they were nearly a year old. Hard to believe our little guy is already 6 months old. Seems like only yesterday he was born. Cole got up and stretched and winced. Maybe you should take it easy today, Dianne said as she changed Luke's wet diaper. There's not much time to rest on a ranch this size. I can't believe the way the herd has grown. It's a blessing, but it also means more work. He began to dress for the day as Dianne took her place in the rocker. She forced herself to relax as Luke began to nurse. She knew she would only frustrate him if she let herself remain tense and her milk wouldn't let down. Still, the images of the night lingered in her thoughts. Trenton told me he was going to take a stab at that roan today, Cole said, buttoning his shirt. Your brother is quite good at breaking those green mounts. Trenton seldom has the chance, or desire, to talk to me, it seems, Dianne said sadly. We used to be so close. Zane and Morgan had each other. They had a special bond because they were twins, you know. I could never get in close to either one of them. But Trent, he was different. He cared about what I thought and talked to me long into the night when we were young. He's a grown man now, Cole offered, and no doubt he lived a good deal in his time before joining us here. A man changes. Can't be helped. Women change, too, she murmured, knowing in her heart she was far removed from the young woman who had arrived homeless and parentless on the Diamond V. Cole leaned down and kissed Dianne's forehead. I'd better get to work. Ring the bell loud and clear when breakfast is ready. No doubt there's already a pot of coffee brewing on the stove, she said with a grin. Probably biscuits baking in the oven, too. Faith is always good to sneak over and see to that. The former slave was a faithful friend and worker on the ranch. She and Malachi sure make our days a whole lot easier. We'd all go hungry and have shoeless horses if not for them. Cole went to the bedroom door and opened it. Looking back, he smiled. "You two make a man proud." He didn't wait for a response before heading out. Dianne shifted Luke and smiled at his greedy feeding. He was such a little butterball. He watched her with dark blue eyes that never seemed to miss a single thing. If Dianne frowned, he frowned too. And if she smiled, his grin was bigger by far. The dream still haunted her, however. In spite of this peaceful moment and Cole's obvious love, Dianne felt cold inside. She closed her eyes and saw the battlefield once again. No doubt she was merely recalling the vivid descriptions written up in the newspapers. Journalists seemed to have a flair for the dramatic and graphic. But what if the dream was a forewarning? Didn't God do things like that? Joseph was warned in a dream to take Mary and Jesus and escape Herod. Other people in the Bible had dreams that helped them to survive. But this dream offered no promise of hope. It only showed complete destruction. Dianne shuddered again, and Luke stopped nursing, looking up as if to ask what the problem was. "Oh, my sweet baby boy," she said, stroking back his tawny hair. "I pray it was only a bad dream and nothing more." He gurgled and smiled in response. Dianne laughed, but the joy was only momentary. Prayer would see her through the day, but hard times were coming. Gus, their foreman, said the winds were blowing up a change, and frankly, Dianne wasn't at all sure she liked the sounds of it. Later that morning, Dianne and Faith made jam. It promised to be a hot day, so they hurried to get the task out of the way before the sun would make everything unbearable. Faith's children, Mercy and Daniel, played quietly in the corner, while Luke slept in the front sitting room. Faith rubbed her bulging abdomen and smiled. "This one sure is a kicker. Can't hardly see how we'll make it to October. I'm betting this baby comes early." Dianne shook her head. "Each time has been different, hasn't it?" Faith nodded and resecured a red bandana around her head. "Guess carrying babies is as different as the babies themselves. Leastwise, it's been that way for me." "My mama indicated the same thing," Dianne said, remembering her mother's words, although she did say they all had one thing in common. "What was that?" Faith asked, giving Dianne a curious look. "She said they all wore her out." Faith laughed and stirred the cooking jam. "That's true enough. But it's a joyous burden to bear, don't you agree?" Dianne did agree. She loved little Luke more than she could express in words, and she looked forward to having more children. She wanted a whole houseful, like it was when she was growing up. Smells good in here," Cole said as he came through the back door. "Any coffee left?" "Now, Cole Selby," Faith began in a scolding manner, "you know there's always coffee to be had in this house." He grinned. "Well, there's always the chance it could run out." "Maybe when that strawberry roan of yours sprouts wings and flies," Faith said, putting down the spoon to get a cup of coffee for Cole. "I think maybe that roan did grow wings," Dianne teased. "At least it sure seemed Cole was flying pretty high yesterday when that beast finally managed to let loose of him." "Now, if you're not going to be nice to me," Cole began, "I won't tell you the surprise." Dianne noted the amusement that danced in his expression. "What surprise?" "We're going to Bozeman City for the 4th of July celebration. We'll leave in a few days." "Truly?" Dianne questioned.